Yesterday, England followed other parts of Europe by bringing in a proxy vaccine mandate in the form of vaccine passes, with mandatory vaccines likely on the way. Can we expect the same authoritarianism we're seeing in Germany and Italy?
Ja, alles wird gut, alles wird gut.
Sì, tranne uno di 200 ogni tanto cambia.
Cioè che non ce l'hanno?
No, che fanno un po' di polemica. Se ce l'hanno fino adesso, diciamo, la percentuale è molto alta.
Surely that couldn't happen in Britain, right?
Have your mask on properly. Look at this guy. He's got his nose out and he's trying to tell me to wear a mask ordering a subway when I'm exempt for asthma. So mind your business.
Listen to me.
And let me go on my journey.
Right, stay there. I'm detaining you.
You're detaining me for not wearing a mask. You weren't even wearing a mask in the first place.
So at the minute, right, you're under arrest.
Under arrest
for not
for what?
wearing a mask. Okay?
Under arrest for wearing a mask.
So
Have you heard
give me
this?
that. You're
No,
under
you know.
arrest.
Welcome to Counter Narrative. Both clips in Britain were of people getting arrested for not wearing a mask. I'd advise anyone in that situation to comply with the police rather than be manhandled and arrested. Whether you like it or not, they have the authority in that particular situation. The best thing to do if you feel they've been unprofessional or unfair is to get their information and put in a complaint. So yesterday was a surreal day where the news was upside down in my opinion. So everybody seemed obsessed with the parties that were held at Downing Street. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not happy they had parties while the nation was in lockdown. But I fully expect politicians to be lying hypocrites regardless of their party or ideology. However, I do expect them to maintain the civil liberties of the people in this country. To me it seems that the party's story and the laughing about it by Allegra Stratton was a complete red herring that has diluted the real story of vaccine passes. The quote, "a good day to bury bad news," springs to mind. So during the Johnson press conference, in which he introduced vaccine passes and practically admitted vaccine mandates are coming, the press were more concerned with a party that happened a year ago, something I'm sure Johnson was grateful for, and which I found frankly disgusting and disheartening. We've known for a long time that the mainstream media or legacy media cannot be trusted and is very left-wing and authoritarian. In my opinion, they are desperate for more lockdowns and stricter rules, something world governments seem happy to indulge them in. There are a few good channels out there like GB News and Talk Radio and the organisation Big Brother Watch, which I'll play a clip from now.
Yeah, it's happening. And if anyone has been waiting for the moment when they were going to stand up, that moment is now. Because the introduction of COVID passes leads to, and look, you can hear in what Boris Johnson is saying, that mandatory vaccines are on the table, and that is where COVID passes lead. We've seen it happen in other countries, and it's all about this creation of actually a subclass of people who are treated as unclean, unsafe, exclude them. They have to carry their papers that they're some kind of different category of citizen because they haven't decided to get vaccinated, or they don't want to have a booster. That was something else that came out in the press yesterday. It's 2 vaccines for now. We're keeping that under review. This is the thing about an authoritarian. The rules just crank up and crank up and crank up. And the only people that are going to have a relatively smooth ride are the people that will say unconditionally, I submit.
Not show proof of having been double jabbed to anyone when it's none of their darn well business. But millions of people just say, what's the big deal? They'll say, Silky, what is your problem? The vaccines save lives. Shouldn't everyone have this vaccine? Why would you argue that people, even though the vaccine may well save their life, and statistically, if they are over 70 and they've not had the vaccine, they really should get the vaccine. Why would you still defend their right not to have the vaccine and not to have to show proof of it?
If you lose freedom over what goes into your body, what kind of freedom do you have? I mean, that's why bodily autonomy is so important and medical privacy is so important, because if you don't have freedom over that, and if the government can dictate to you what you should put into your body, there are all kinds of things that make people healthy. I mean, eating well, exercising and stuff, but you don't threaten people with exclusion, job losses, losing their homes and everything else that's going to come from dividing society in this way, by not complying with those kinds of medical demands. Let's just have a reality check. Over 90% of people are vaccinated. 98% of people are testing positive for antibodies. So if we're having this cranking up of restrictions now, where the hell will it end? It won't end. And that's what people need to wake up to. This is not going to stop until we say it stops. And now is the point where we have to say it stops. So COVID passes is the beginning. We've seen this happen. Wales, Scotland, where they haven't worked, by the way. So we know that this is a theatrical policy and is being used to distract from other things. We've seen what has happened in Australia, Austria, Germany, Italy, everywhere else. It's very clear what the path is now. So this is let's not look at this through the lens of football stadiums and nightclubs. It's the crossing of the Rubicon that now makes us a papers please society. For the first time in a very long time in Britain, people are being asked to carry papers. It's ridiculous. So this is the moment where we really have to stand up, fight this in Parliament. Big Brother, which will fight this in the courts. And ultimately, it comes down to each of us, just as you said, Julia, to not comply, because that is the thing that's going to make all the difference. If people go along with this, there's no route back. It's going to be uncomfortable. We're going to miss out on the theatre and other stuff, but you just have to say this is where the line is drawn.
However, it's not about a virus when governments bring in policies that they know for a fact will not stop the spread of a virus. And we know that about vaccine passports. We know that also about masks. We have all the statements from spring last year, by the way, of all these senior scientists pointing out that these masks that people wear, unless you are in a hospital environment, in a medical environment, full on PPE, medical grade masks, these things do absolutely darn bit of nothing, frankly. But when governments bring in this stuff, it's about theatre and it's about control and it's about sending a message that we're doing something. And instead of being honest with the British people and saying, look, this is a nasty virus, we're going to have to learn to live with it. And yes, people are going to die. And we're going to have to get on with our lives and protect the people who want to be protected, who are most vulnerable. And other than that, we just have to get on with things. For some reason, so many of the British public won't accept that. And for some reason, so many of our politicians and so many of our media won't accept that either. Why do you think that is?
We've become, as is often the case when a country falls into authoritarianism, we have become this tunnel vision kind of national conversation that is about one thing and one thing only, and it's this horrible virus, which of course merits, changes to society, the extraordinary measures, all of that. But we're losing track of other things that really matter, other health conditions, but also the nature of our society and the freedoms and the equality that we have within it. Yeah. And I think this is where, in particular, the opposition is failing us here, because the people who are going to be most affected when they lose their jobs because they haven't got the right medical papers, or when they're excluded from society, the people that don't have smartphones or even printers, who are going to find this very difficult and going to find yet another barrier to social inclusion, are the people that they are supposed to speak for, and they're being failed. So we can't rely on politicians. We've got to rely on each other. I think we'll see protests. We'll be organising protests over the next few days. This is a critical moment for us all to come together, stand up and say, enough.
So that conversation between Silky Carlo of Big Brother Watch and Julia Hartley-Brewer of Talk Radio was one of the most fascinating and succinct I've seen on yesterday's Revelations. I agree with all of it, however I would add that even the people who go along with all the rules may not be able to please the government if it goes from authoritarian to totalitarian. That may seem hyperbolic, but it's happened many times before in history. You start by complying to lockdowns and jabs. A few years later, you're texting the government to tell them what socks you're going to be wearing on a Tuesday. There seems to be a knee-jerk reaction that we have to be doing something, for example wearing dirty, ineffective masks that literally are labelled that they cannot stop COVID on their boxes. Putting plastic screens between people. The virus is airborne. Can it not navigate around the screen? We know that certain ethnic minorities are sceptical about taking the jabs. Therefore, they will be disproportionately affected by these restrictions, which is an ethical minefield in itself. Okay, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. It'd be great if you could like, subscribe, and comment. Cheers.